Do you know what really happens inside the mind of a narcissist when you cut off contact with them for too long? It's not just silence or the loss of a relationship. It's a deep psychological collapse, a battle between the false self they project and the shadow they've always been terrified to face. Carl Jung once said that we don't become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by having the courage to confront the darkness. And it's prolonged silence, the one thing they cannot control, that forces the narcissist to confront that shadow, the emptiness, the insecurity, and the fear of being forgotten. Today, we're going to decode the narcissist's reactions through Jungian psychology, from their outbursts of rage and despair to their obsession with control and primal fear of abandonment. You'll understand why silence holds more power than any argument, and why you, the one who dared to walk away, become the mirror that exposes the truth they never wanted to see. When you walk away from a narcissist, you're not just leaving a toxic person behind. You're triggering a psychological earthquake that shatters the entire power structure they've spent years building. For them, control isn't just a habit, it's their lifeblood. Every glance, every word, and every reaction from you serves as proof that their inflated ego still matters. When you choose silence, when you refuse to react, you cut off the oxygen supply to their false self. Jung said, "Power does not corrupt man. Fools, however, if they get into a position of power, corrupt power." The narcissist has hidden away a fragile shadow, the insecurity, the fear of being forgotten, and the gnawing sense of insignificance they refuse to face. But when control is stripped away, that shadow rises, tearing apart the illusion they've been feeding on. By refusing to play the role they assigned you, you force them to confront a terrifying truth. There's nothing inside but an empty shell. It's like turning on a light in a house of mirrors. Suddenly, all the distorted images they believed in collapsed. They realized their power was never real, it was borrowed, sustained only by your reactions. That's why your silence is more powerful than any argument. It's not just cutting off contact, it's dismantling the illusion of power itself. There's one thing a narcissist can never endure: silence. For most people, silence is just a pause or a sign of disinterest. But for a narcissist, silence carries a different weight. It's a mirror reflecting the naked truth about who they are. Throughout the relationship, they've grown used to your reactions. Whether love, anger, or sorrow, every reaction is fuel for their ego. When you argue, they feel powerful. When you cry, they feel significant. Even when you hate them, it proves they still occupy space in your mind. But when everything vanishes, when silence replaces every word and gesture, they're thrown into a void where they don't know how to exist. Your silence forces them to confront the shadow they've denied all their lives. What remains is emptiness, and the terrifying question, if no one reflects the image I want to see, who am I? What makes silence the ultimate weapon is that it requires no effort. You don't have to argue, prove anything, expose them, or justify yourself. You simply live and move forward, and your absence does the work that 1,000 words could never achieve. A narcissist can withstand resistance, but they can never endure invisibility. If silence is the mirror reflecting their emptiness, then narcissistic rage is their most primal response to fight against that reflection. This isn't ordinary anger, it's a volcanic eruption rooted in psychological terror, the fear of no longer being the center of someone else's world. Jung said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." For the narcissist, silence forces their shadow to surface, and they can't bear it. So they react with explosive, destructive energy, like a cornered animal with no way out. You might see long accusatory messages, irrational blame, venomous outbursts, or subtle threats. What matters isn't the content, it's the reaction. As long as you respond, they feel temporarily freed from their terror. The paradox? Their rage exposes the very weakness they're desperate to hide. Truly strong people can face silence without screaming. Only a fragile ego reacts as though it's being annihilated simply by being ignored. Your silence becomes the sharpest weapon because it doesn't oppose or fight back. Like an actor shouting on stage to an empty theater, The more they scream, the more the echo reminds them their power is gone. When rage fails to draw you back, the narcissist enters desperation. You might see dramatic shifts. One moment they're begging for forgiveness, the next they're promising to change. Then suddenly they're showing fake concern for your well-being. Sometimes they send messages that seem harmless. Are you okay? But beneath it lies no genuine care, it's a test. Jung said that what we repress will always return in a distorted form. Their apologies and gestures of care are precisely that distortion, not love, but fear of abandonment dressed up as love. If sweet promises fail, they escalate to more dramatic tactics. Endless texts, midnight calls, showing up unexpectedly, or staging false emergencies. These are calculated plays on your empathy, the very qualities they once exploited. But none of these performances stems from genuine remorse. They're survival strategies. They become like a thirsty wanderer in the desert, willing to play any role, victim, hero, or repentant soul, just to pull you back onto their stage. But remember, it's all theater. When silence drags on and desperate theatrics fail, the narcissist often shifts to a new battlefield: your reputation. This is the smear campaign. In their mind, your decision to cut contact isn't just personal rejection, it's a slap in the face to their ego. They begin weaving a new narrative where you're no longer the victim but recast as the betrayer, the cruel one, or the unstable one. Jung said, "What we deny in ourselves, we project onto others." Unable to face their own shadow, the selfishness, deceit, and cruelty, they project it onto you. The campaign spreads through family, work, and social media. It starts with subtle complaints and then escalates to direct accusations. The danger is how convincing they can be. Because they've cultivated a polished public image, their fabrications are easily believed. But when you refuse to play the game, their lies eventually contradict themselves. Deception requires constant upkeep, but truth only needs to stand still. The smear campaign may hurt, but it's proof that the narcissist has lost direct control. After rage, desperation, and smear campaigns, the narcissist often turns to grandiose displays. You'll see them flaunting new relationships, posting pictures of success, or speaking about grand ambitions. The goal is to convince others and themselves that your silence hasn't shaken them. Jung wrote, "Persona is what we present to the world, but the shadow determines who we really are. Without you as their audience, their display becomes hollow, echoing in an empty room. The greater the display, the deeper the insecurity. If they were truly fine, they wouldn't need to prove it at all." If there's one core obsession shaping the narcissist's inner life, it's the fear of abandonment. This isn't ordinary worry for them. Abandonment equals the annihilation of the self. Their ego isn't built on a solid foundation, but is an artificial structure existing only through validation from others. Jung wrote, "Behind every mask is a wounded child crying out. Deep within lies the primal wound, the memory of conditional love. This shadow carries the buried belief, if I'm not perfect, I'll be abandoned." When you truly leave and maintain silence, that fear activates fully. This is why they shift from rage to despair instantly. Every tactic stems from the same root, the terror that if you don't return, they'll cease to exist. When you remain silent, they're forced to face what they hate most, the truth that others can live without them. Your silence strikes directly at their primal wound, forcing them to confront the shadow they've spent a lifetime fleeing. When you look back over this entire journey, you'll see an undeniable truth. Your silence has accomplished what no argument, explanation, or act of forgiveness ever could. It stripped away their greatest weapon, control, and forced them to confront their own shadow. We've walked through it all. The collapse of control, the mirror of silence, the eruptions of rage, desperate performances, smear campaigns, and the fear of abandonment. All of it points to one conclusion: their power never truly existed. It lived only through your participation. Jung said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." You've done something even greater. You've broken free from being trapped in someone else's darkness. You chose silence. You chose freedom. The beauty lies in this. Silence doesn't require shouting or proving. It simply requires you to hold steady and let truth speak for itself. Your silence, your firm, resolute absence, is the loudest testimony that you're no longer caught in the narcissist's cycle. With every day you remain silent, the truth becomes clearer. You are not alone. This journey isn't simply about breaking free from someone else, it's about returning to yourself, whole and strong. Because in the end, your silence wasn't just about them. It was about finding your way back to you.